Right, thank you everybody for coming. Sorry about the few minutes delay to start. First of all, just to remind you all, the meeting will be recorded. We have eventually managed, after some serious technical difficulties, managed to get the recording of last month's meeting eventually onto the website, but we've had to do it via a link, not via it being a file that's just on there, but it is now on the website last month's meetings. And that also means that when you are speaking, please only one person speaking at a time and nobody in the gallery chatting, because it really messes up the recording. It's not the greatest of recorders, but honestly, you speak clearly from where you are, but don't talk over anybody else, and that means there's a possibility we might be able to hear back on the tape what people have said. It's very warm. We've got all the windows open. I've got a fan here trying to waft air, but hopefully it'll cool down as the evening goes on, because I think we're all aware of how warm it is. One of the things, since our last meeting, there's been so much email traffic through Sharon's inbox that has caused a real problem to the work she's managed to get through this month. Can I just remind councillors that council meetings, or when we discuss things, we don't do things via email. And there's been a little bit of that going on this month, and it does disrupt normal discussion patterns and the way we would prefer to do it. So if you could just bear that in mind. If it has to be something you want to discuss with Sharon, please do so, obviously. But just remember that we don't normally copy all councillors in on that sort of thing. A good thing to tell you about that's happening at half term, we're going to have a whole series of events. You know, there are 2 weeks of half term in October for our primary schools and secondary school. And we're very aware there's nothing very much for kids to do. So a bright idea was had by somebody who doesn't really want to be publicised, to coordinate all the different organisations that do anything with children. So that could be Youth Space, it could be people who do dance, it could be the football club, it could be the youth football that's just beginning. We're going to possibly hear about that later. Dancing, bell ringing, singing, and we're going to try and bring all that together. So during those 2 weeks, there'll be lots of different activities going on for our young people to have a go at. Taster sessions, bowls, that sort of thing. So if you know of any teenagers, we're going to be publicising this as soon as possible in the context of the Youth Space website, but also through the school as well, so that all the teenagers do know or can hear, but also going out to the villages and to the other secondary schools, because some of our children do actually go out, teenagers do actually go to the other secondary schools, they don't all go here. It's usually by choice that they do that. So, and also remind you that if anybody ever wants to do any voluntary work with the young people of the town, you only have to shout, desperately short. We need people who are interested to spend some time with the young people. So, that's me for now. Apologies for absence, Sharon. Have we got anybody?
Yes, we have. Ron will be late because he's at another meeting, but he should be here by 7:30.
Can I have a proposal to accept those apologies? Christina, seconder. Mark, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Do we have any declarations of interest other than those already given as part of your signing up to be a member of council? Anything that relates to this agenda, for example, that you might not have thought of before? Okay. So let's get on to the next thing, which I'm going to invite. We're going to just swap the agenda around a little. Just before we do inviting the public to speak, I'm going to do the transport section so that Emma can get away. So, Emma, would you like to come and talk to us about your transport? This is item 8 on the agenda. We're moving it up to item 3B. Yes. Emma has been invited to come from RCCA to talk about some of the issues that we have with transport, a number of things which have been raised by various councils. But would you like to update us as to where you are and what's going on transport-wise with?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Back there? Okay, I'll try and keep it at this level then. So thanks for inviting me today. There's a fair bit going on with regards to transport in the county at the moment. And transport, I'm not just talking about buses here, I'm talking about all forms of transport, so active travel as well, which is, you know, any improvements we might be looking to make for walking and cycling and that sort of thing in the area. So cabinet reports we have going in September relate to green and active travel, which is we're producing a number of strategies which is sort of setting out the council's vision for laying down those foundations to be able to give more options for greener and active travel for all age ranges and visitors to the county. So anybody who's really interested in the detail of that, the reports pack is online on the council's website, and on there we've got a proposed local and cycling walking infrastructure plan, an alternative fuels plan. So obviously anybody who has any kind of interest in electric vehicles, I know it's a bit contentious with some people as to whether it's being accelerated too quickly, whether electric is the future. Given my own personal views on that, I don't necessarily think it is. Other people want hydrogen, other people want different things. But the scenario we're in at the moment is the government's wanting to invest in electric vehicle infrastructure and is providing the funding for that. So obviously we've got to come up with something that means we're going along with what the government's asking us to do, but we're actually going into that with a wider view, that we will constantly be looking at other types of fuels that are coming forwards now that are greener, and being open to moving in that direction as and when things change. And we're also involved in a levy project, it's called. So that was a joint bid with 4 other local authorities. So we're working in a consortium, and the consortium was awarded just under £1 million last year, and it's all to do about encouraging basically the private sector to come and invest in electric vehicle charging points in rural areas where they don't see that huge income stream. It's using that grant funding to get them to invest in getting the charge points in the counties that they wouldn't obviously see as a cash cow, essentially. So we'll be doing that pilot project, and some will be on the street and some will be in our car parks. It's a chicken and egg with electric vehicle charge points. There isn't the huge demand there, but there won't be the huge demand there if you don't have the charging infrastructure. So you're never quite sure what level to do these things at. So although we're trying to hang back a little bit and be followers on that stream, we do have to move along with it a little bit and get that balance right. So those policies and strategies will be put before Cabinet next week. And as I say, if you're interested in the detail of those papers, they're on the council's website now to be viewed. Along with that, I don't know if any of you know very much about the Levelling Up project and the Levelling Up bid money that Rutland have won jointly with Melton Council. There are some transport projects within that Levelling Up project, which again Cabinet will be considering our spend on that next week. So the project's quite interesting ones in there. It's all to do with linking the 2 market towns, so looking at putting on some new bus routes in between Oakham and Melton is a project we'll be working on. Obviously anybody who's used the R1, Rutland Flyer 1 as it was, knows that was reduced along that mainstream. This is more to do with the villages the other sides going in that don't have even the 2 hourly. So it's making those links for some of the really rural places that don't have access to even an hourly or 2 hourly bus service at the moment, and utilising some of that grant funding towards it. The Levelling Up money is capital monies, so it can't be spent to fund the running of the buses. So even though the headline is, 23 million and 6 million of that will be for transport projects, in reality what that doesn't mean is that all of a sudden we can put on twice as many bus services in the evenings and weekends and from everywhere to everywhere, because that's not how it works. So it's capital monies, and what we intend to use that money for is investing in the vehicles, because you've got to buy with this funding. So we'll invest in the vehicles, the fleet, a green fleet if possible. Some will be electric, the rest will be low emission diesel buses, to actually deliver the projects. And flexible transport as well is what we're looking at. So running empty buses is something we can't continue to do. So it's looking at that solution where We put on fixed route buses where we know there is a demand, so school times, coming home times, commute times, certain market days where we know a lot of people will travel over to Stamford or to Melton or into Uppingham or into Oakham on those relevant market days. But in reality, the rest of the time, the buses are pretty empty. So we don't want to take away the choice of somebody to decide to travel at those times the buses are normally empty. But similarly, we can't keep things as they are. So we're looking at sort of what they call DRT, so buses that will run when you want them to. And that will be part of the equipment we will buy to set these things up, will be funded from this grant funding. We're also looking at providing electric minibuses, and essentially this will be a good trial. So the Uppingham Hopper will have an electric minibus to trial on the operation of that, as will the Oakham Hopper, and we'll also be working with Voluntary Action Rutland on the transport that they do on their minibus, to provide them with an electric minibus to use and the charge point infrastructure that comes with that. And what we'll do in that first year when we have those buses in place is have a look how well they work with what we're using them on. Do they have the range to do what we need them to do? Are there any problems with the charging, and what can we learn from that? Are they comfortable? Do the drivers who are driving them, and I know you have volunteers in Uppingham, do they find them easy to drive? You know, I know there's a lot of people saying, you know, they're so quiet, it's going to cause issues with people crossing the road. You know, there's all sorts of things. Some people love them, some people fear them. This is going to be a trial, so they will have a resale value. So, you know, we're purchasing these out of grant funding. We'll see how they go, and what we do is we'll monitor, are they good or not? So we're dipping our toe in to electrifying the fleet, really, in a sensible way that means that we can compare the costs of the usual types of buses we run against the costs of running something like that. And we can report back then to the Department of Transport with confidence that we know exactly what the problems are, and that's what they need to hear. Is electrifying a fleet in a very rural area like ours the right thing to do, or is it more suitable for urban areas with a city with very short journeys and short stops? You know, are we going to find if we put an electric bus onto a route between two market towns that we're going to run out of charge partway through the morning? It's possible, which is why we're going to dip our toe in and do the towns only with a backup bus ready. Is the key point there.
Thank you. I mean, that sounds really interesting. Any other critical stuff, or can people now ask you some questions?
Critical stuff, network review. So some of you might have known that we can't afford to run the buses as they are for much longer. Transport operators have had us over a barrel for a few years now. Keep asking for more and more money for delivering less and less. So we're doing a full bus network review now, and some members of my team have been going out and about talking to people around the villages and in the towns, and dropping sessions and asking for people's comments. You know, what's missing now? What is it you would like? So really, it's designing a new type of transport delivery within the county, which suits the needs of people pre-COVID, and that has to be said, because bus usage was killed off during the pandemic. You know, the message was out there: go on a bus, you're going to get ill and you're going to pass away. It's difficult to recover from that, and we've had driver shortages, we've had fuel shortages, we've had an increase in prices on buses, buying them, fixing them, everything. There's delays. Everything that could hit the transport sector has hit it. So we've really struggled to keep things as they are now, let alone improve them, as is what the government wants us to do, with no additional funding, is make improvements. So what we're doing is we're picking it all up, looking at it, finding out exactly what's needed, what might work for our small county, and try and encourage some more usage somehow, which is why we're getting the views of everybody at this point in time to see what they would like to see and what would encourage them perhaps to use buses more, even if it's just once a month or once a week. So the network review is the big project, and we'll be taking a view on this more towards the end of the year when we've collected all our information together.
If people want to write to you with their views,
email into us, simple email address, transport@rutland.gov.uk, and that will get through to us. All our information's on the council's website, and everybody's comments will be taken into consideration.
Any questions? Pete?
Yeah, you mentioned about the two electric buses that would be made available to Oakham. If this funding is from central government through to councils, so will that electric bus be coming to Uppingham Town Council as the administrator of the town, or would it be going in another direction?
Well, it'll be owned by Rutland County Council. It will be an asset that we own. What we are doing is loaning it to the operator of the Uppingham Hopper.
You've answered my question beautifully, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Emma, one I'd like to ask about is the 747.
Yep.
Because I know that one's key to all of us. But you're obviously doing a network review, but what are your expectations on the 747?
Well, I was talking to Leicestershire County Council yesterday. We're in regular contact and looking at the usage on the 747 and what might happen. Leicestershire County Council have delayed their bus services review by up to 9 months. The Department for Transport, since COVID began, keep dipping in and coming up with these little pots of money that have different names every time they give them, lots of different letters, which is to support public transport get back on its feet. And they've given another pot of this money called BSIP Plus. And BSIP Plus money can be used to support public buses where you already don't have the budget to support it. So the rising costs that Leicestershire County Council are getting, it's a demand from Centrebus. We won't continue to run it unless you give us X amount of money. And that X amount of money just doesn't sit in Leicestershire County Council's budget. So the same as it happens to us, we're then left looking and thinking, well, what do we do? You know, we can't afford to run it for that. Is there another way of doing it? So we will be working closely with Leicestershire. So nothing will happen with the 747 until probably towards the end of next year, the way that it's looking. And our working with them to do the levelling up routes that join the two towns, we're going to be looking at the successes of that and how our joint working cross-county may mean that we work with them on more creative transport solutions that isn't necessarily dipping into the pocket and being held ransom to a company like Centrebus. Can it be done differently and still deliver what we need for both counties, but done in a different way? So rest assured, we don't want that link to fall apart, that's for sure.
No.
So we are going to work closely with them, and they feel the same way.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a quick question as the clerk? And we can do this in email afterwards, but I'd like to push the EV charges on Mercer's Yard. We got it to a point where we were going to sign contracts. I can't sign the contract because it's your car park, so you own the freehold. But
so who's that sitting with?
I've sent emails to you and also Ellie,
So
but I don't seem to get anything back.
I can chase it tomorrow, no
That
worries.
will be perfect, and if we
Okay.
can correspond by email, because it's costing this the town council one heck of a lot
Yeah,
of money.
no problem,
It's just
but
like an empty.
I mean, a lot of you will have probably seen in the press there's a lot of vacancies at Rutland County Council at the moment, so the staff that are there are a bit stretched, but I will make sure she knows that
Fantastic.
that
Thank
needs
you,
to be a
Emma.
priority.
Thank you, that's perfect.
Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for coming.
No worries.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I say, if anything else comes to mind, anybody's got anything good or bad, you know, just let us know, and our details are on the website. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Now on to item 4, opportunity for the members of the public to speak in accordance with standing orders. For those who haven't been here before, this is around 15 minutes. Everybody can say what they would like to. Occasionally there's a very easy question that can be answered, but usually we take people's comments and thoughts and reflect on them afterwards. Could you put your hand up if you want to say something? One, two, three, four. Right, I'm going to start at this. And Dave got something as well, so it's 5 people.
I'll go last.
You'll go last, yes. Sherman, I'm going to start with you. Could you stand up and say your bit, please?
Hi, I'm Sherman, local resident, live here all my life, that kind of thing. So Liz has asked me just to come and talk about the football that we've started up. So we've just recently started up an under-9s team in Uppingham to try and get youth football back in the town. So we've managed to, we're affiliated with Uppingham Town, so we're called Uppingham Town Juniors. We've had such a high level of interest that we've gone from having an under-9s, we've got an under-8s as well. So basically any kid that's between 8 and 6 can now play league football in town, which is nice. We've liaised with Lyfield School and they've been really good. They've been able to accommodate us so we can actually play our home games on there as well as home games on the up on Todd's Piece, which we've now sorted out with town. What we want to do is obviously we want to grow, so we'll backfill, which is pretty much what Pete did back in the day. So the whole idea is that we're not going to try and we can't run loads of teams because the way it works in football is the older the kids get, the bigger the pitches. You know, everything changes. They don't just, like back in the olden days, you played 11 aside and that was it. Whereas now, when you're under 8s, you play 5 aside. When you're under 9s, you play 7 aside. Then you get to under 11s, it goes to 9 aside, and then it goes up to 11 aside when you get to 14s. So obviously, you need bigger pitches, bigger goals, that kind of thing. So which kind of like one of the reasons why I'm coming to talk to you guys is moving forward. One of the big issues that we're coming across in Uppingham is there's nowhere for kids to play football recreationally. There isn't a goal. If you want to go to your kids, I want to go and kick a ball in the net, there isn't one in the whole of Uppingham, which is a real shame. You can really see this when we put our goals up on Todd's Piece on Tuesdays. We set them up half an hour before training, and we get kids from everywhere, much older than the right age group, just because they want to play football. And I know there has been. I think you guys have got an agreement with Isaac Moore. Little lad, you're gonna provide money for some fixed goals or something. I think is that for you guys?
Well, I think he's got the idea.
Okay.
It's one of the many things we have discussed in the past, but it's health and safety issues around that. But
yeah, I can imagine. But it would be a really nice thing if somehow, we try to identify areas ourselves to try and sort of come to you with. And about the only thing we've got is there is an area between the little kids' play park and the houses. You could get something in there, so at least there's somewhere to play, because at the moment, like I say, you can't put them on the actual tiles. We've got trees down one side, haven't we, in the gym and stuff, so it's a really, really tricky thing. So that's number one thing. It's just because that's obviously they're not the kids that are playing football for me, that's just the kids who just need somewhere to play. And then the second thing is moving forward as we get bigger, we can play on Lyfield now, but Uppingham is so poorly serviced by green grass, somewhere to play. My kids will play at Houghton, and Houghton have got a field association. They've got 3 football pitches, so they've got on a Saturday they'll have umpteen teams training. They've got every age group from under 7 all the way up to under 16s, and then 3 adults teams. And the only way that works is if you've got space to do it. You can't physically, like with what we've got now, we've basically got Tods, and then like I say, we've been able to get on Lyfield, but Lyfield can only go up to, we can just about get a 9-a-side pitch on that, but that is literally with barely any runoff. So obviously, I'm coming to you now because obviously it's going to be an expensive thing, but it is something that, as a local resident and certainly from the football point of view, it'd be great if we start looking towards, I don't know how that works, it's obviously not through you, but it's probably going to go higher, but we do need to think about having somewhere where kids can run around and kids can play, and we can play football, we can have different age groups. And so that's sort of heads up that's going to be something further down the road that's going to be needed, because at the end of the day we're on top of a hill, so if we don't do something eventually, you're going to be playing some very vertical football. We have to invent a new game. So hopefully you've got anything to ask or anything.
Just a quick question. You have looked at using UCC as well, haven't you?
UCC, a good question. UCC is it's fully subscribed to Stonygate football rugby. So Stonygate, we asked them because we had a few people who were interested in under 11s team, so we'd need under 11s was the biggest size, and so we had to try and find somewhere else. And they weren't initially keen on kids playing on Tods, but I think you guys have held their feet to the fire slightly on their list. But yeah, so we spoke to them about UCC, and UCC is fully booked. They block book Stonygate, block book it on a Sunday morning from 9 till 1.
The 2 football pitches as well?
They block book every pitch they have.
Right.
And it's loads of money. It's £34 an hour, but yeah, they've got an agreement with UCC for about 40
Okay,
grand.
thanks Sherman.
Cool, yeah,
50
sorry.
minutes. Quick, God, very
Can I
quickly.
ask Chris,
very quickly.
make a quick point? Have you tried the cricket club? Winter, big space.
Yeah. I mean, it would be beautiful to play on, but yeah, no chance. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right.
Cheers.
Who's next?
Me.
Is it Val? Yes.
I just wanted, in light of the talk you've just had from the transport lady, we don't have a hopper, but we have a hopper bus, but we don't have a hopper bus which is provided by Rutland County Council. Why? Is my question. Why not?
Very
Yeah.
good question
Excellent
there.
question.
Thank
Because
you.
it shouldn't be down to a private company
To have to do it
to
because.
have to do it.
No.
Yeah, quite.
Thank you.
Right? Okay.
Thank you, Val.
Second point is my usual thing.
It's been ordered.
I know. Well, I've listened to Sharon's report. So where are you mentioned to us police for bins, but you didn't say anything else about the bins I want placing.
They have all been ordered, I'm afraid, and I'm up there.
That's okay, as long as it's been
Yeah.
ordered. And we're going to go
Where you want.
right.
Outside West Dean.
Jolly good. Now the other thing is seating. Okay, at the top of Station Road. This where behind the hillside there used to be a seat, which
Yeah.
isn't there anymore, and the top of Station Road. I know Rutland Uppingham in room put things in, but are we going to have seats?
Yes,
Right.
it has been ordered.
Good. That's fine then.
Sorry,
I
Dave.
think she means, when she means hillside, she means that at the junction of Station Road,
Station Road, yes.
Green
was a-
Street
there
and
was a-
Southview,
There was a bench that has been removed.
and it was removed for health and
It's
safety
broken.
reasons because of the
Broken,
steepness
yeah.
of the,
Yeah.
that's why they removed it.
Yeah, it's nice to see the Uppingham Blue planters there.
Yes,
but
that's right.
Yeah, but
Okay.
seat ordered.
Bench ordered. Next, Maureen. Was it? Sorry, that didn't sound. That sounded officious. I didn't mean to. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the time. We're not going to have extensions tonight. No, go on. You next.
Right, I'm pleased that you've got the recording and you've obviously worked hard on that. It's at the last meeting, and I really feel for the person doing the minutes, it must have been really, really hard. But I do have to raise that the representation I made has unfortunately been abbreviated so much that the actual core meaning has disappeared. There are several inaccuracies, including omissions of key points, as well as lines taken out of context, so much so that the main focus is missing. I'm not going to rehash it again tonight, but my main point is that I spoke of our concern that the council is being damaged by a lack of transparency surrounding the actions of some councillors in regard to the neighbourhood plan, which wasn't in the minutes, and that's the vital link. So, you know, I really do hope that that might be corrected. There are other examples. I mean, I did ask, from trying to skip stuff, I did ask, why are they, that's the small group of councillors, meeting these people, the landowners and developers, without the knowledge of full council, the neighbourhood
I think you did
plan.
say all this last time, Maureen.
Yeah.
Yes, and it is on the recording, and it has been written in the minutes in the way that it was understood at the time. So, are you just going to say the same thing you said last time?
No,
No.
no. So I'm now saying that is not in the minutes. So I'm not a councillor, and I can't join in item 6 on the agenda when councillors ask for inaccuracies, including important omissions that changed meaning or obstruct meaning to be corrected. What I've done then is I've given a copy of my representation, although it's on the recording, to my friend Councillor Dolby and asked her to independently compare it to the way it's been minuted. And only if she thinks it has inaccuracies or is misleading will she raise it when you are ensuring that the minutes are a true record of the meeting.
One observation, thank you, Warren. One observation I would like to make is that because of the length of the meeting and the detail, Sharon did something with the minutes which is not normal council practice. Normal council practice to say point resolved and members of the public spoke. Normal practice, correct legal practice, not to do what we did on this occasion, which was to write down as lengthily as possible to the extent of 9 pages of what actually happened at that meeting, and it won't be happening again. It takes far, far too long to detail every single point everybody makes in the course of a discussion and in the public gallery. We try really hard to get the salient points in. Do not expect in the future to see every single point written down, because it isn't the correct way to do it. It's not the way minutes should be done. Just to let you know that, because it really it affects the way we have to then think. We're now going to spend time going over every detail of last meeting, probably to no great benefit. And I don't want us to go back to rehash the discussion we had at the end of last meeting, because it did not lead in a very helpful direction. However, everybody has the right to make the comments, so we will take on board what people want to say. But just bear that in mind, we're not going to have this verbatim, word by word report.
I agree entirely.
It's not helpful.
I agree entirely. But if the meaning is lost or changed,
I didn't perceive when I read it that anything had been lost or changed. I suspect that as the person who said it, you were more sensitive to it than I was.
Yeah.
Okay. Please, next.
Andrew Farman. I'm interested in what views the council have on the racetrack, which is London Road, both in relation to motorbikes, cars and lorries, made worse when they closed the road from Corby to Bullock. Yes, I live on the road, so I have a vested interest. It's got far worse in the 13 years that I've been here. It's now horrendous, and the lorries, I don't think, should be allowed to come through Uppingham, and I think the council should make representations to the county, and I spoke to Christine Wise about it, who's got a portfolio for transport, to say that I think Uppingham should be limited to 7.5 tonnes coming through, and I can't see that there are any commercial damage from limited to 7.5 tonnes, because I never see any 40-foot Pantechnicons stopping in the market square or anywhere on the road through. So, if someone can help me, whoever looks after that, could they please?
Thank you.
Could I answer the gentleman? Pat might want to follow. We've looked extensively into this in the past. The only way that you can get a weight limit on that road is if you de-trunk it. It's an A road. So if you de-trunk it down to a B road, the maintenance of that road then becomes the responsibility, largely, of the county council, not National Transport. So several years ago, quite a number of years ago, we looked into this, we investigated, we looked at the county, we tried very hard to get exactly what you've just said done, and we're told the only way was if you were to de-trunk it. The police, we went to the police and spoke to the police and said, yes, if it's de-trunked, yes, then you can have a lower limit, weight limit. And then they said, and who's going to police it?
Well, sorry, can I just ask this? I understand the point that it would be the county council's responsibility, which I think is fair, and I think they should take responsibility for it. How long are they going to wait until children who go to school every day, up and down that road, until one's killed, two's killed, three's killed? During that Bullock nonsense, those lot, I've got a speed camera, but they were 50 miles an hour down that hill. Absolutely, they're wide enough not to worry about the speed bumps. It was bonkers, and someone will get killed, and then something might happen. But I think the county should take responsibility. I don't know whether you have the ability to influence the county to make it happen.
We try.
Well, you should. Sorry, you should have.
Yeah, but we don't. We don't.
Sorry, Andrew, carry on.
You're the second biggest council in Rutland. You should have the ability to influence them. They're voted on by people in Uppingham. There are 3 councillors in Uppingham who are on that council. The council should make representations to those things. And in fairness to Christine, when I spoke to her, she was extremely supportive of my view. But at the moment, it's an absolute nonsense to have 40-foot lorries hurling through the town.
Could we suggest that is it possible for yourself to get a residence survey, and get as many names on it as possible? It gives us more.
Pete, can we just...
sorry.
Hold you, there's all sorts. I think you would find a very sympathetic ear with that one, Andrew. I think we are all very aware of the traffic, and actually with the 40-footers, they come round that corner, they go down Station Road to the industrial estate, and that's one of the problems. That way the huge big ones go down there. But anyway, but thank you for raising that. It is an issue, and as Christine is here with us this evening, that's something else. Pat, did you want to ask?
Yeah, I just want to say, and I know it's just a sticky plaster at the moment, but we're doing community speed watch.
Yes.
And we are concentrating quite a bit on London Road. So I know it's not the answer perhaps you want, but we are, in a small way, trying to re-educate people and make a bit of difference. And we're going to sort of try and do it at schools coming up to UCC and in the afternoon on the return.
If you were to stand at the mini roundabout by...
No, we have a specific places, only 2 specific places we're allowed to stand, and one is just by Brooklands, and the other one is at the top of the hill by UCC.
But you're missing the point.
We
I'm
can't,
sorry.
we're not allowed to
They won't
I'm
allow.
afraid.
But I think that's, can I say, I think that's a really interesting, we could debate this one for a long time, but you're Pat's quite right. There are rules about how you can even do community speed watch, but we know about those trucks that plough down there with undue regard for anything.
So we can only get people
Whose
coming out.
rules are they? Sorry.
RC's, well,
No,
police rules, because they don't want anybody being hit by a truck while they're taking their number plates.
So we can get people coming out.
Believe it or not. Anyway, thank you.
Ironic, isn't
It is ironic. Thank you, Ed. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. Oh, Dave, yes, you've got an extra one because of something you
I
did.
don't normally do this. I don't normally pretend to be a member of the public, but it's quite important. I went representing the council last night to the parish forum, and I know Christine's quite keen that I say something about it. I'm going to write a report on what happened last night and present the report to the full council, but I thought you'd like the heads up because it's changed. So for members of the public, parish forum is where all of the parish councils, and obviously your town council is in law a parish council, we get invited by RCC to collectively meet so that we can swap common issues. Andrew, you'll be not pleased, but you'll be interested to hear that HGVs was one of the main things that was picked up last night by the other councillors as well. So it is a big issue. Anyway, what I quickly wanted to say was a number of us who've been to these parish forums over the years, I'm sorry to tell you that they've got worse and worse over time. It's fair, isn't it? And I'll try very hard not to make a political statement, but in the past, it's been felt that sometimes we were being spoken to by RCC rather than listened to, and that point was raised last night. So Gail Waller, last night the new leader, was very keen to say, what do you, the councils, want from this parish forum? So one of the things, when I've written my report to my colleagues here, hopefully next month we'll debate it so they can say what they want from it. But the key thing going forward that I wanted to stand up tonight and say is that RCC normally provide the secretariat for these meetings. If you remember, RCC invite you to go there. They're no longer going to do that, all right? And the reason, which you might be interested in, is to do actually with the change in the boundaries for the MP, all right? So historically, the MP has been, the returning officer has been Melton. Okay, so the returning officer going forward is now actually going to be Mark at RCC, Mark Andrews at RCC. And so his team around him, who normally provide the secretariat for the parish forum, are going to be spending a lot of time doing parliamentary work apparently, and it's going to put a stress on them. So the answer, which I believe councillors will like, is they are taking a 1-year trial of getting LARALC, so Leicestershire Rutland Association of Local Councils, will facilitate all the parish forums going forward. Okay, there is a cost to that, but not to us. LARALC are charging RCC, I don't think it's a commercial secret because it was asked last night, it's £2,000, which RCC are picking up the tab, and they'll try it for a year. We normally have 4 times a year, but for the money we're only going to get 3 times a year. All right. So I'll give a full report at the next council, but I thought you would like to know of those developments.
Thank
you.
Sharon, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, if I could, it probably goes some way in answering what Mrs. Thomas has just brought up. So, in the last meeting, you referred to item 16 in connection with how the private companies, Buckingham First and Vanguard, relate to the council. You welcome the representations, I think this was in the minutes, are being recorded. Concern over a group of councillors have met with landowners and developers without the full knowledge of UTC members. These councillors were members of all three groups as well as MPAC. It was alleged that consultation with full council had been kept to a minimum, and she clarified that our council...
Speak up. I can't hear you.
Oh, do you want me to go right the way back? Or did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm struggling with the traffic as well.
Right, okay, I'll go right the way back. So, Mrs Thomas referred to item 16 in connection with how the private companies Uppingham First and Vanguard relate to council. She welcomed their representations are being recorded, and there was concern over a group of councils that have met with landowners and developers without the full knowledge of UTC members. These
Carry on, Sharon.
These councillors were members of all three groups as well as the MPAC, which is responsible for doing the negative plan. Sorry, went off tangent. It was alleged that consultation with full council hadn't been kept to a minimum. She clarified that our councillors should be above suspicion and not risk a conflict of interest. They should not be putting their loyalty to private companies beyond their duty as councillors. She asked that councillors involved review their positions and that the council draw up a protocol of transparency for dealing with all external bodies, commercial or private. In a related issue to this, a member of this town council had attempted to raise an agenda item that would have sought to restrict the right of individual councillors to also be members of other organisations. As the town clerk used this agenda item, and my reasoning is produced below on this paper. So, to clarify my decision, no individual member of council, groups of members of council, or council as a whole have any right or authority to make comments within council on membership of other groups or organisations. I'm sorry, council gets said a little there. In this case, suggesting that membership of this organisation is inimical with being a councillor. This involves a value judgment which is simply not within council's powers to make. An example of this might be that council views membership of, just an example, Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem parties as being inimical to being a town councillor, or any other organisation at any point along the acceptable or unacceptable spectrum. It isn't council's business to say this regardless of any individual member's views. And I finish that by saying, as clerk and the proper officer, I have a duty to protect this council and to you all as councillors. To agenda your request, it would mean that effectively this council will be indulging selective censorship, something you are not able to do. So I wanted to make that public tonight so that people can understand why I made that decision, because it is based on council law. For those people that might come back at me and say, have I checked this? The answer is yes, I've checked it. I have sent those very documents to LRAL. They have looked at them legally and they have confirmed that what I told you was 100% correct. So I'd just like to point that out because I think it needs a line putting in the sand here.
Thank you, Sharon.
Chair? What agenda item are we on at the moment?
The town clerk, we're in the public speaking session. Dave asked to say something at Parish Forum, and Sharon, as the clerk, has asked to make a response to Maureen in that context. Is it helpful? Good.
No. Not at all.
Right. Thank you, Sharon. that was interesting. Right. Gordon? Sorry. Yes. Godfrey. Sorry. Go on.
You've made that response to me personally, and presumably that response was CC'd to the rest of the council. You used the term restrict. There was no basis of restriction. It was a view that it would be not in the councillor's best interest or the council's best interest to be a member of Bingham Vanguard. And you referred to council law, but I've struggled to find anything that relates to council law. Uppingham Vanguard is not a political party, so the analogy is not.
I was trying to give you an example.
But it's an unfair analogy. And what I'm not saying is that it's preventing people joining other organisations. Of course they can join other organisations.
Excuse me, but I think the fact is you've been told that you can't make value judgments as a council, and it was a value judgment that was being made. We could all belong to the Tufty Club and somebody might not like it. That doesn't mean that you can therefore say I don't want them to be on the town council.
Well,
so that's the,
would you
that's
say
the
that if it was the paedophile information exchange or something like that?
I think
order.
Yeah, that's out of order.
Can I come back on that? I will send you another document which basically says, and it is law, but it basically says that you can do anything that you like as a councillor, and basically you can't be disqualified.
And
it's horrific.
And actually, there is a known case of somebody who actually did have a restriction, who actually was that could not be removed from the council.
But that's missing the point.
No, the point is we've now discussed the Vanguard Board and all of this so many times. I'm not going to start that again
why
today.
We've discussed it so many times.
Did you attend the meeting last night when you could have found out all about it?
Come on,
right.
Come on.
Exactly. So there we go.
That's ridiculous.
But you see, that is.
That's ridiculous.
No, I don't know.
That's
It's ridiculous.
a cheap point.
Can I Ladies and gentlemen, I am ashamed of you. Will you stop having a go at each other in this way in this council? It is shocking. You were invited to something, you chose not to go. You could have found out something, you didn't. That is entirely your lookout. I'm not saying it. You wanted a document all about the history of what it was, and you have it in your pack to read should you wish to.
Through you, Chair, can I ask the clerk to send me the
She will
details of the
indeed.
LRAC response, which shows the particular statute or provision or regulation?
Absolutely, she will. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike.
As you're probably aware, quite a few people didn't attend from this council to
Yes.
the meeting last night. Basically because it wasn't an open meeting to the public. Members of the public, and I know we're going over old ground, members of the public have expressed concern about Vanguard and would like questions to be put to them in public in a council meeting. They declined, well, they didn't decline, they came up with an alternative offer, which I don't think was satisfactory.
And we discussed that at the last meeting.
I
Some
don't-
people
yes,
went.
but
We're not going to discuss it again tonight, Mike.
Can I just say, well then, can you talk to members of the public who keep coming to me and to other councillors?
Yes, please.
Can I finish?
Yes, go on, Sharon. Go on, Mike.
Keep interrupting people, and I'm not interrupting anyone. People keep coming to me and are concerned about the lack of transparency with councillors. It's regardless of whether it's a Labour Party or not. It's the transparency that is concerning people. And it might make you smile and laugh, but it's not a joke.
I gave you an example.
Can I finish? Yes, but it's not a humorous subject, is it? It's a very serious subject to the
But
residents of this town.
But you keep going to pick on the same thing, saying the same thing.
But until the council address it for the public, not for me, not for these guys, but for the public, it will keep coming back.
Let me try and
Sharon
answer
first,
this
and then we're going to call
as
them
the lead.
Maureen, quiet in the gallery, please.
Let me try and answer this calmly. Your role as a councillor is to get information. If you'd have come to that meeting, you could have then relayed it to your residents. That information, that is part of your role, to get information and then relay it back to your residents.
But surely...
So you didn't do that?
No, I didn't come because people didn't trust.
You.
No.
Oh, come on, that was a cheap shot. I'm sorry,
we're not having
that was a cheap shot. Can I just say, it's not me that they mistrust.
There it is.
Right. Christine, and then Trevor, and then...
I am a member of all four things that you are on about, and it's my business, and it's not up to you to tell me what I can be a member of.
But it's a matter of transparency.
Trevor, your turn. You next.
I just want to make a comment that, town clerk, if you are calling into question the advice the town clerk is giving us, then I think you're making quite a serious mistake, bearing in mind that I'm sure if you disbelieve Sharon, that she's investigated council law, she's also made reference to LRALC, and you're still questioning that, I think that's wrong. And secondly, I will make the point, it's not a cheap point that you made in my view, Mayor, but you know, if you're seeking information on any organisation, Uppingham First, whatever, and if it revolves around transparency, then it does seem a little bit of an omission. You have your opinion, but the fact that if you did not attend the meeting last night, then you made a choice. If you are going to build a bridge and trying to understand and also do your job on behalf of your constituents, then I would make the point that attending that meeting is a very positive way forward.
But it's still not open to the public.
That wasn't the point.
Just very briefly, I'd like to say that the invitation was sent from this council to Uppingham First and Vanguard to come and talk to us. They chose to put a counter offer. They've chosen not to explain why they didn't want to talk to us. So I think it's cheap to say that we should have turned up last night and it's our problem. It would have been nice, and perhaps a lot of this would have been resolved if Uppingham First and Vanguard had said, no, we choose not to do it, and these are the reasons why. We never had those reasons why.
Thank you. Right, one last thing for Trevor, then we're moving on.
Last night was very open communication.
I don't want to know, thank you. Let's carry on.
Excuse me. Carry on, Trevor.
My view, fellow councillors who respect or otherwise, is my view. I'm not taking sides. My wife joined me. She had no knowledge at all of Uppingham First. She came away from that meeting. She thought it was a superb meeting. She had a greater understanding. But more to the point, if people, councillors, desire to put questions to Uppingham First and Vanguard, last night was an ideal opportunity to do so. There was absolutely no restrictions on any questions. Questions were invited from the floor.
Only the answers were restricted.
One moment, please, one moment. The Mayor can tell me to stop, okay?
Just make your point and then we're going to stop this
so
one.
Really, that's it. I mean, the fact is that this is a fact. Uppingham First, they would have allowed any questions that any individuals on the council would have cared to put to them last night.
Right, thank you. We are now going to close
Can I
that
just
one.
say,
No,
Joe?
no more. We're not discussing it anymore.
Well, why, if they were so open, why aren't they so open here? I mean,
it is not.
It's
It is not up
ridiculous.
to me to answer
I mean,
that
Trevor's
question.
saying they're all open, but they refuse to speak at this body.
That
Why?
is because they are entirely within their right to choose in the same way that anybody else is right to choose.
They're entirely in their right to do so, and we're in our right to condemn.
I'm going to move on now to the reports from our county council,
Outrageous.
which is item number 5. Christine, is there anything you would like to share with us?
I've done some notes, I'll try and be quick. I've sort of done a mix of things that are very Uppingham focused and things that are Rutland focused that impact on Uppingham. Baines Corner has been raised with me by a resident about how uneven the paving is. I walked up and checked it this afternoon, and certainly one side is absolutely lethal. I have communicated that to the county and told them as a matter of urgency they need to come and inspect it, and I've been told a highways inspector will be here either today or tomorrow. They can't have been out today because it's not taped off. I hope by tomorrow it'll be taped off. If it isn't, I will be in the office at 9 o'clock Monday morning, because certainly I think it needs to be taped off.
You know, I assume.
Quiet at the council, please. Only one person speaking at a time. Pat, could you stop talking, please?
I'm not talking.
Would you be quiet? I can hear some sounds. And maybe it wasn't you. I can hear some sounds going on. Please, could you carry on, Christine?
Barrier on, sorry, the point is it'll need a longer term repair, but it's got to be made safe for the public, so we've got to stop them coming there. The longer term repair we can discuss.
Okay.
The barrier on London Road that was daintily removed by the farm implement, there has been a replacement barrier ordered. They will be replacing the whole stretch. The whole of that piece will be upgraded when it arrives. I can assure you I've seen the order, I know it's actually happened. and the groundworks to cut the mud back on the path have been requested. I haven't as yet had a date for that. The traffic survey of London Road by the highways engineer that was due in September may not happen in September owing to the imminent departure of the highways engineer. I will be checking that it is on the list for as soon as we have a highways engineer to replace them. The waste vehicle unreliability, certainly my green bin wasn't empty today. I'm waiting for the email tomorrow to tell me why. Sharon will get an email to tell her why. Our waste vehicles have been asked to go way beyond. The average life expectancy of a waste vehicle is 7 years. Our current ones are 14. We won't go into the reasons why. They are becoming unreliable. They have, the council meeting on Monday voted to enable the replacements, which hopefully will be in place by May next year. There is a long waiting list and that's the earliest they can be done. It is part of a whole waste strategy review. And the final one that Emma mentioned was the green and sustainable travel strategy. If I could recommend looking at, it's called an LC WIP, local council, local cycling, walk and walking infrastructure. Can't remember what the P is for.
Plan.
Project. We'll go something like that. That is published with the cabinet minutes. When she said they're on the council website, they're part of the cabinet minutes. I've done a summary, and in my summary you will see I actually refer you to the bits of the roads that are recommended, and several of those are in Uppingham. That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
You.
We usually got to this sooner, but never mind. Confirm the minutes of the full council meeting held on Wednesday the 9th of June, of which you will have received the draft in your...
August.
August. Sorry.
August.
What did I say June?
I don't know.
I did. So I know we've got some, right. It came through quite late. It was, no, it's the draft minutes, you've received those. No, we
yeah.
Yes, we have. Yes,
yeah,
that was Christine. Christine was item 5. Okay.
Chair,
so
he's got his hand up.
Can I?
Yeah, yes, I know. Yes, I was just. Yes,
sorry.
carry on, Mike.
No, can I propose that we adjourn confirming the minutes until people have had the opportunity to listen to the recording? I know it's an odd thing, but the recording has only just come out, and I know it's no fault of Sharon's. She's put a lot of work into it, and it will be a one-off. But I think, given the nature of the minutes and the length of them, I think people would prefer to read them. I would personally prefer to read them, and I will propose it. And if anyone wants to second it, that's fine. If not,
could I just ask a technical question? The minutes, technical question, legal question. The minutes are the clerk's minutes of the meeting. They're not. They're your record.
They're my perception.
They're your perception of what happened. So actually, I don't think legally that's a thing we can do. But you could check that.
But until it's checked,
yeah, well,
then...
Yeah, but it's not, but carry on, Sharon.
You just said read the minutes. You've had the
No,
draft
not
minutes.
read. I've read the minutes.
Yeah, that's,
but
you actually used the word
but
read in
there
there.
are
That's
some
what I was
sorry, there are some
about.
discrepancies there in terms of typing of things. And as we heard from somebody in the audience, in the gallery, they weren't happy about what was recorded. Given that the recording is there for people to listen to, what is wrong with on this one occasion, because next month the recording will be, I'm assuming, there, again, not a criticism, be there in good time. So what's wrong with postponing it until people have had the opportunity, including the public, because it only went on this afternoon?
One of the things that's really odd with this is that this is the very first time we've actually had a recording that's been available.
Yeah.
And we've managed perfectly satisfactorily right up until now. And it's because, and we've done the minutes in a different way this time, as in doing it as verbatim as possible. But some people are not happy with how it has been.
But it wasn't verbatim, that's the thing. And yes, but because it's custom and practice up until now, doesn't mean to say it has to stay that way. That's all I'm saying. I've asked for it to be, I've proposed it. If no one wants to second it, and we don't, and it's voted down, then
I think Trevor's got a question.
Question.
Can I have a question for the town clerk? As far as I'm aware, having chaired and managed minutes of my own meetings, am I correct in saying minutes are required just to provide the salient points?
They are. I stepped out of my normal way of doing minutes. I did it for a reason, because I suspected that people might want to read a fuller story. What I have to do as a minute is record a resolution. So quite easily tonight, everything that's been discussed, I could just say an item was, let's use Emma. She made a presentation. That's all I have to put legally. I try and give you a well, not you even. I try and give the public a story. So if any member of the public picks those minutes up, they can get a feeling of what was in there. What I would say to you is, I tried it, I don't think it worked. In any way, I don't think it worked, and I will take that responsibility. I was trying to help, I didn't help. So going forwards, I am not going to spend days and days and days trying to read minutes, listen to tapes, do 300 other things. I'm going to do it as regulation states, and that is perfectly proper, and I will record your resolutions.
Godfrey?
Can I, I'm not sure where we stand with that particular point, but is it possible just to make one or two sort of observations that are kind of typos that actually do affect meaning, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
52723, the penultimate line of the second paragraph, it says, why haven't they agreed to UTC invitation? He stated that UF and UF, I think that must be UF and UV.
You're quite right.
Yeah. And then in the third paragraph, in the third line up, it says, and this is simply, I just don't, I'm sure this is just, you know, I've taken minutes and I'm not very good at taking minutes, and I'm sure this was, you know, a really difficult thing to do. It says, ignore the invitation that was uniquely as UTC with a qualifying board. So I think there might be an omission of a word, or
Sorry, Godfrey, would you just tell me where you were?
yeah, I'm at the third paragraph down on 52723, and the 1, 2, 3, 4th line up. Invitation that was uniquely.
Oh yeah, I've got you. Yeah.
You got that?
Yeah,
Also, could I just say on that line, I said qualifying body, not board.
That's fine. I can change that. That's absolutely.
And there's, I just got over the page, which on the next page, so it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's me again, sorry about this. Why does Vanguard say blah 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 blah? Bring developers, heat, schools and churches together.
Health, health, Godfrey.
Health.
What?
Health.
Oh, health.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I get it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I saw it.
And I think on the next page, which is paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Councillor Fish. Has anyone ever read the minutes of UF meeting? Is that UF or UV?
I thought you said UF.
Oh, it might.
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, it's probably not.
The recording of it.
It was. I
And
think it was.
can I just finish off saying that I'm so sorry that you've had technical difficulties with the audio. Hopefully those technical issues have been resolved. Could we? Can I propose a protocol that we have the audio up as soon as possible, and at least within 4 days of the meeting? I think particularly members of the public, and we've got quite a full gallery today, but there are people you know, are either on holiday or away or can't make it or have disabilities and so on. And hearing the audio almost a month away is kind of historical. So I'm proposing that as a protocol. I'm hoping somebody would second me on that.
I think it was proposed in the
Right,
original
so-
resolution.
Sorry, I know Pat wants to go first, but I'd like to support some of what you
I
said.
was just seconding it.
Oh, all right. Sorry, Pat.
Can
Can I ask for a slight amendment? So, Godfrey, I agree entirely, and Pat, that it should go on as soon as practicable. We've seen the technical issues, and I think, with respect, if we could not tie Sharon down to 4 days, I think we should say, as a council, we'd like it to go on as soon as practical, and we'll monitor it. And if we find it isn't going on as soon as practical, we can return to the item. But I think to tie it down to the 4 days at this point, given it is extremely difficult and challenging to do, but I completely support you in the idea we should do it as soon as we possibly can.
I think it
Would
was in.
you accept that amendment?
Sorry, I think the document that we looked at in regard to the recording was that it said 7 days, 7 working days.
We tried before.
That was in my proposal and resolved last time.
I'd just like to have the feedback. Sharon, is that practically possible, do you think? Excuse me.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going to come over my desk in those 7 working days. I just don't know. If it is possible, I will do that. Let me explain what the problem was. That meeting, and I'm not technical, so I'm sort of looking over at Mark, that's might help me a bit here. That recording of that meeting was 194 megabytes. Our website takes 32. So it was nearly impossible. I tried every which way around. I've got tickets into our website provider. So there was an option, and it did come late in the day, where I split that tape down. So you'd have had 5 different tapes. That's not conducive, I would argue, for somebody trying to listen at a theatre meeting. So that's why that's one of the reasons why I would have to say this, because I am going to fight my own corner here. Another of the reasons was I had a family funeral and I was away for a few days, and I had a few days holiday. I'm perfectly entitled as your town clerk to do that. So it wasn't me not sitting at my desk deliberately not putting them on. I had valid reasons. I'm sorry, but and that's all I can say to you. I'm sorry. I will try my best going forward.
Right. So we've had a proposal and seconder, and with an amendment.
We have kind of come to a compromise of 7 working days.
So as in the intention, that would be the target. So the target would be. I think if we can put the target, rather than holding a gun to Sharon's head to say it's got to be the target, and we would all be able to support the target. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah.
You've got an amendment?
I think that was in my original proposal and
Proposal and
resolution.
Fine, good. Let's take a vote on that. Those who are in favour of this as a thought, that within 7 days, target of 7 days to get the audio up. Right. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you for your efforts in trying to do that.
So
it was Godfrey and Pam. Yeah.
So you've not decided what you're going to do with the minutes.
Right, so now can we go back?
Can I just say, is it safe to assume that no one's seconding my proposal, in which case fine.
So on the basis then that we've had the helpful thing from Godfrey and Pat, and we've got this sorted and you picked out the points, can I therefore propose...
No, I haven't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat.
Okay. So Godfrey, you've done your typos. Yes?
Yeah. So we're back to the minutes. Now, Mrs. Thomas did refer, and I know you don't want to talk about Mrs. Thomas, but she did say that she passed me what she'd said at that meeting for me to have a look at it and see what I thought. And I did find that the version of what Mrs. Thomas said in those minutes misses the main thrust of what she did have to say. And I jotted down instances I found this morning. There are several. I can go through them one at a time, or from what I understand, I don't think you want me to do that. So I would just say at this stage, unless you want me to go through them, that in all I do not regard the minute as being true to Mrs. Thomas's representation, and as a way of correcting this and to save our time, I would propose in this instance that the full text as spoken should compromise the minutes.
Sorry, you don't mean compromise, do you?
Comprise, so not
Yeah.
compromise,
Yeah.
comprise the minute. And then it's about, you talk about salient points, and this is actually a correct understanding of what she clearly
Okay,
said.
so the suggestion is that Mrs Thomas sends Sharon her text so that Sharon can insert that into the minutes, and then you will be content to sign off the minutes as correct. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
On email, please, if you don't mind, not on paper. Okay, is that what you're saying? So can we have a proposal? Can we have a proposal for the minutes with that change?
Can I ask the clerk through you? Is Sharon happy with that?
As I said before, it was a trial on my part to try and capture the whole minutes. It is difficult when you've got a tape and you're listening to it in your ear and trying to capture every word. It didn't work. I'm not doing it again. In this instance, because it obviously is emotive, I will accept, and if Mrs Thomas gives me her speech, I will reproduce your speech in full and put it in the minutes.
Okay, I'll second you then, Pat, on that
All those in
basis.
favour? That's 11 for. Those against? 2. And any abstentions? 1 abstention.
Can I ask a quick question? It's not controversial, but it was asked to me by a member of the public. In the minutes, Councillor Shaw said that he had 3 quotes from in respect to the flooring and things. Did you approach Uppingham Carpet Company, which is
No.
a local company?
No.
Wouldn't it have been a good idea?
We're not. Sorry.
No, it's just. I'm really.
Ask him afterwards.
Well, you're supposed not to do things out. You said earlier, don't start doing stuff outside the meeting.
We discussed this but we've already agreed.
A member of the public asked me, and I'm asking the question for the member of the public. So what do I do?
I think it's 20 past 8, and I think it
Fine,
would have been a good idea to have asked the question at the last. But that's fine, Mike. I understand the frustration. Okay. Given that I was really trying not to have us going on after 9 o'clock tonight, if at all possible, could I have the verbal reports from the UTC committees and working parties?
I think you missed
Mr.
one.
Mr. Finance. Oh, Sam.
Don't miss that.
I'm sorry, I would have
Sorry.
kept quiet if you.
I thought you might be happy to be skipping. Right, carry on. Finance.
Well, only very, very quickly indeed. No great change from what we said last month, and last month we were talking about cumulatively a surplus of around £8,000 year to date. This year gone up to about £11,000 surplus. So same trends really. Maintenance underspent, though of course we reserve the right to change that wherever, and it may do. One bit of really good news on it is we are way ahead on town hall lettings at the moment by about £5,000.
Excellent.
And that's one of the contributory factors. But other than that, nothing, no other comment really. We're looking all right.
So would you like to propose that we receive them?
Yeah, could I propose that we receive the accounts?
Second that.
All those in favour?
Mike second.
All those in favour to receive the accounts?
Have you got to do a bit of signing then?
Yeah,
Do you want to sign?
sign.
Anyway. Okay.
Right. Standing orders working party. Godfrey. Anything else? I know we're waiting.
The sort of rough drafts are with Sharon, but of course it's not an absolute priority. And Sharon's got many other bits of work to do, as we know. So it's work in progress, and Sharon and Cynthia, I'm sure, will be doing their utmost to get it in a neat format that is, user friendly, and we will look forward to receiving that as soon as is possible.
Thanks, Godfrey. Discussion, Bowls Club and Football Club discussions. I think the two of you are involved. Barry first.
Can I just declare an interest in the Bowls Club?
Yes, thank you. There have been some discussions with the Bowls Club.
Do you want to do it, Sam? Or do you want me to do it?
Just I started in toffee.
Do you want me to do it?
Let's not hold up Sam's coffee.
As Sam's vice chairman on his committee, I'll step in for him because he's eating his toffee. Right. So Sam, myself, and Sharon the clerk met with the Bowls Club this very day, this morning. We are going. I'm not going to give any commercial information in this open meeting, but we have. If you remember, at the last council we resolved and we sent them an offer. They returned today with a counter offer. Our proposals are that we will consider this at firstly the F&GP committee, which is going to be held at the end of September, with a view to making a recommendation to full council, which will be for the October meeting. Okay. In terms of the football club discussions, again, Sam and I have met with the football club. We've had some non-binding discussions. We always make it very abundantly clear that only council sitting in session can make decisions. They had their meeting, I believe, at the end of August. We've heard some from Sherman about the involvement of kids football. So the thing I can report here is that there is definitely some movement towards more inclusivity at the football club. And again, they will be making a formal proposal, which again we will bring before the council. Okay? Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning committee of today's date.
We've had a meeting today and nothing contentious to report on that particular one, other than item 1 on the planning meeting agenda is now on this agenda as item 10 to discuss the plot or the piece of land.
Sorry, Mark, can I just ask then, so are we moving on, Chair, to 10?
We're just about to move on to
right, so in that case, can I propose that we receive the reports A and B? If
yes,
we're...
thank you.
So I'd like to propose we receive it. Do I find a seconder, please? Thank you, Pete.
All those in favour? Thank you very much for those reports.
Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem.
Yes.
So yeah, item 2023-0802 is for the land north of the Leicester Road, which has outline planning permission for 126 dwellings.
163.
160. What did I say?
126. You've just
sorry.
got 50 houses.
Oh, right. Sorry.
You've got a piece of paper in front of your map.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of that. I was just reading that. So I think this would be quite a short item. On the screen there you will see the original outline for the plot on the right. And on the left, do we want to just turn a light out, see if it makes it more visible for others? On the left is what's currently submitted. I think it's our collective thinking on the planning committee that the plan on the left, the new plan, isn't quite what we thought it could or should be, with more open green spaces and what have you. So I think we've had confirmed tonight at 5:01 we can refer this for a second design review. And my recommendation is that we pursue that review. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments? Barry's the expert on this plot, so
as well as doing that, should we actually lodge an objection?
Yes.
And point out that it doesn't comply with our neighbourhood plan.
Yeah,
yes.
Sorry, Chair. I agree with both. I agree with Barry that I think it's important that we send a response back to RCC saying if you agree that this council does not support this application as it stands, because it is our belief it does not meet the existing neighbourhood plan. And in particular, I'm thinking of the clusters. All right, there aren't clusters in this. And then, secondly, in order to clarify that view of the council, we would like to seek a second independent architectural review. Because if the independent architectural person comes back saying it doesn't meet it, that will strengthen our hand.
Yeah. Are we questioning the number of units as well as the design or not?
I believe, if I may, Chair, I believe that our problem is that it already has existing outline permission for 163.
Yeah.
What they're dealing with now, and again, I'd just like to point out to councillors that if you go back to our resolution when that came forward, we objected, if you look in the minutes, we objected to them being allowed to use reserved matters for the layout. Okay, that was specifically in our feedback to RCC. And RCC, of course, this is just a reserved matters application. So we can't, as I understand it, challenge the numbers, but we can certainly challenge the layout.
Yeah.
Do you want me to clarify exactly what RCC, the planning officer, has come back with?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, otherwise you can't see them.
Sorry.
Thank you. I suffer with cataracts as well, so it's like being completely blind. So the actual answer that came back from the planning officer at 5 minutes is the principle of development access has been agreed at the outline stage. So the reversed matters relates to site layout, scale, appearance and landscaping. Within those parameters, policy 8 can trigger a request for a design review. And I'll just remind everybody what policy 8 says. The town council reserves the right to reserves the right to require an individual design review on any development of 25 houses or more, or any single building of more than 3,000 square metres. Such reviews should be carried out by an appropriately qualified independent body and conducted within the design review guidelines established by RIBA or Kane. Please don't ask me what they stand for, because I don't know off the top of my head. The plan acknowledges existing policy guidance in the National Planning Policy Review, NPPF, and the current and emerging policies of Rutland County Council. So that was in response to me saying, could we trigger it?
Okay. So we're going to propose that we send an objection and...
No, I don't you do it. You.
Okay. So, all right, I'll do it. I'll be the bad boy for them. I'll be transparent in being the bad boy. How's that? So I propose that we firstly recommend rejection of this scheme to Rutland County Council on the grounds that we do not believe that it meets the requirements of our neighbourhood plan, in particular relating to the need for clusters, full stop. Secondly, Uppingham Town Council requires a further independent architectural review of the layout proposed in order to assist the applicant with finding an appropriate scheme. Yeah. Do I find a second?
Seconded.
Blimey, they all want
Seconded.
All those in favour? Right, thank you very much. I can't myself see a huge difference between these two designs.
No.
Despite all the talk. Thanks, Mark. Item 11, to receive the vision and aims document and formulate next steps. Now, this is one of those items that can take a long time. I wondered if anybody, having received basically the summary of all the ideas and the thoughts that people have had, if somebody would like to propose a way forward that would mean we could consider the best way to use this for formulating strategic. Oh, that's good. I haven't finished my sentence yet. And also, so that we don't sort of sit here spending another half an hour thinking, how can we do this? Have you got an idea?
I do. I used to write strategic plans back in the day when I was gainfully employed. I think, first of all, please take this I think it's brilliant how many ideas have come forward. It's absolutely brilliant. And the issue for me is you can't have in a strategic plan, we've got something like 46 strategic objectives that have been put forward, something of that ilk. We really need to whittle it down to no more than half a dozen. But that's not to stifle debate. My proposal is, we've got some brilliant raw material there. Why don't we find some volunteers from across the spectrum of the council to form a working party see if we can agree to whittle that list down to get something that we can bring back to full council and then have a debate about that.
Right, do we have a second for that?
Is everyone happy with that idea?
Yeah.
Okay, so Madam Chairman, I suggest
of all-
we vote on that idea and then we better press gang some people onto this
Right,
because otherwise it will never
all those in
happen.
favour of that as a way forward? Okay, so that's unanimous, that's excellent. Now, I think we need, how many, 5, 6 people tops?
Well, who's interested? Let's see if we can get them. So we've got Trevor, Ray, Tom. Anyone else?
Myself.
Mark.
I'm
go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron and Liz.
Anybody else?
How's that? That'd be enough, wouldn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ray 6. That's 6. Have I not missed anyone? Have I?
No.
Yeah. How about those 6? I'd like to propose those
Unfortunately,
6.
The clerk has missed one, so I've
Yeah.
got Trevor and
Oh,
Ray,
hold on.
Tom, Liz and Mark.
Trevor.
Ron.
Ron. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I propose. Do you second me? Oh, Mike seconded me.
Okay.
So those, yeah.
All those in favour? Right, that's excellent. So that will be a sort of first look at it and see what we can do with it. I think that's a really positive way forward.
Well
It'd
done.
be really good if we could focus on things that, you know, sustainable development and public safety, for example. I've just spotted some of those there instead of some of the other things. Right. Sharon, you have the clerk's update and any recommendations. Would you like to tell us what's going on? You sent us your report. Is there anything on there that you want to highlight?
Well, have you all had a chance to have a read through this? So I don't think there's any need to keep going through it. But what I would like to update you on, if everybody's okay with that, is excuse me. Only yesterday, it's been a busy few days for meetings. I met with Eddie Dorman up at both cemeteries. This comes back quite a few meetings ago when, in fact, it was the old that sounds right. It was the older council, not the newer council, and there was some quite emotive debate on whether or not there were any spaces in the London Road Cemetery. So there was a difference of opinion, and it all hinged on, the fence, on whether we owned the cemetery because it was closed or not. So anyway, I met Eddie yesterday, and we walked around the London Road Cemetery, and we counted approximately 15 empty spaces. I'm going to put a caveat here. I can see where those spaces are because, as you all know, I've dealt with cemeteries for years, so it does seem obvious that there are some spaces missing. However, I now need to check that back to the digital records that I spent most of last year trying to put right and cross-check and do all of that stuff. So on the face of it, what I would say is there may be 15 spaces, but it's not definite. We also looked at various other things through both cemeteries. The hedge separating the upper and, so I'm still in London Road, the hedge separating the upper and lower cemetery, it needs cutting back quite severely in Eddie's opinion. I have to say, having been there, I actually agree with him, because if you back the limousine in, and we weren't in a limousine, I have to say, if you back the limousine into the London Road station, one side of the car you can't get out of because the hedge is there. The other side, sorry, I've talked with my hands. The other side of the cemetery, the other side of the car, you actually get out onto a sort of path. It's sort of grass path, and it goes down a dip. My worry there would be if well, anybody really could lose their footing because they'll be loaded at that point. So we need to really cut that hedge back. I do think that's a job that really needs doing for health and safety reasons. Lots of other things like people dumping stuff in the hole in the hedge. We believe that's Uppingham School, so I'll have to get onto Uppingham School about that. Water taps needing upgrading. Going on from what I just said about the hedge, there's also 2 steps into the, I'm going to get this wrong, the lower cemetery. I suggest that we put a handrail in there for exactly the same reason. If somebody's going down there, it's a real trip hazard, I would argue. So that in a nutshell is London Road. So we then went up to Leicester Road because there is an issue with cremation spaces. So what Eddie told me was the original plan, and I've yet to check this out, it was only yesterday, was for 3 cremation rows, but again, because the hedge is encroached, so this is the hedge on the Leicester Road, because that's encroached, there's not space for another row. So that's quite an easy solve. We just slash that hedge back and we get another row of cremation spaces. But I've not checked all these things out. There is another area, so I don't know if you've been in the cemetery, but where the cremation spaces are, there is another sort of grassy area where we think at some point there was a bench because there's a concrete base, and there is also a bin. That's another area where on his advice, he said you could get another 2 rows in there, which would equate to another 40 spaces. Again, hedges near boundary fields need cutting. I've also been up to the cemetery, and we reported on this to council before with Liz and Tom, because my idea would have been to plinth a cremation area. Now, it's been quite interesting trying to get contractors to go up and work on the cemetery for some reason, but you know. Anyway, I've got one now, and there's 2 quotes that I've got in. One is for £9,000 and the other is for £11,000. And what that would give us is basically cremation spaces for quite some considerable time. So I'm giving you a flavour of what I'll be working on. I suggest I bring all these things back to the Amenities Committee when I've had time to look at it, check the detail. Please don't think I'm not believing Eddie, but you know, due diligence suggests that I have to just make sure that these things are wrong. So I will look at this and I will take it back to Amenities Committee for Amenities to actually look at, and then they can make their recommendations as they feel fit to come back to full council. Does that make sense?
Yeah, obviously to declare interest here, but obviously thank you Sharon for doing that. I do just want to stress how critically urgent this cremation plot issue is. I have a lot of families who want to go up there, but there is no space yet dedicated to these ashes. It is a real problem. It has to be resolved. Even Sharon's doing a lot of work. It has to, whatever you decide, it has to be resolved quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon.
Sorry, can I just keep you for a second? I mean, Mike, you're chairman of Amenities. Would you mind, once I've managed to do this piece of work, if I put in an extra meeting?
Yeah.
Because as Tom says, I'm conscious of we need to get this done sooner rather than later. If you do decide to go on this plinthing method, then I have already asked the contractor when it can be done, and he would get that in by the end of October latest. So that is quite
speedy solution.
Yeah, I did a bit of sweet talking, but hey ho, we need to move things along. So my report is as is, but I thought it was important to just let you know what I've been doing on the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat,
Can I just ask on bullet point 7 at the end, it says which is asbestos this side. Can you just enlighten us what that refers to?
The guttering.
Yeah, it's the guttering, Pat. So I instigated an asbestos report when I first came because there hadn't been one, and the guttering on the alley side, that's the easiest way to explain it. On the alley side, that is a mixture of asbestos guttering. It was exceptionally difficult to get a person to come in because they have to have special training. You have to have scaffolding. It's a whole new ball game, which is basically why I came to you a little while ago and said I think we need to overhaul the whole roof and look at it, because then we can do the asbestos and link it all in together instead of doing it piecemeal we do one good job instead of. So the town hall guttering has about 3 different types of guttering. It's got cement, it's got asbestos, and it's got plastic. So
and it's all leaking, isn't it?
Yes. So that links back to the CCTV camera, which has been harmed because that's the side that the rain comes through because the asbestos guttering is there. So it's all a bit of a round subject, really. But that is why it's going to cost. You know, if we get a professional roofing contractor in, it's going to cost. But we've gone past the time now, and I think I've said it to you before, where we've put sticking plasters on. They are just not working anymore. We are going to have to spend some serious money. And this is our biggest asset. And you've heard tonight how Sam said that the room highs are going up and up. It's very well used. We need to protect this town hall. So that's where that all comes. So I hope that's explained.
Thank you. Everybody okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Item 13, consider the possible implications from planning application, and then you've got the number, Officers' Mess. St George's Barracks is brought to our attention by Edith Weston Parish Council. Right, Sharon, you've had it's a plan. Do you want to talk to this?
No, I'll let Sharon go first.
I just put this on the agenda because, as you know, as Uppingham people, and I'm not so familiar with it, I think this was a huge planning implication. What Edith Weston Parish Council are saying is, if this planning application goes ahead, it's going to triple the size of their village. It's going to be the usual things, the infrastructure, all the things that you're used to on planning. So I just thought I'd place it on there to just make you aware and see if you've got any views because of the possible implications that could happen in Uppingham. I know it's not Uppingham, but these things could happen in the future and increase the size of our village, etc. So it's more me putting your attention and letting you know. You may have all picked it up, I don't know, but I'm bringing it to you in case you haven't picked it up. And why would you? It's Edith Weston. But I just thought you ought to be aware of it and planning implications going forward for our town.
Barry and Sam.
I wouldn't agree with that statement.
Okay.
That it's going to triple the number of properties in Edith Weston. The site has 81 properties proposed for it on 4 hectares of developable land, which is no greater than anywhere that we're really developing in Uppingham. It seems a good proposal to me to deal with the site.
Okay,
and I can't see anything wrong with it. They've made a lot of statements on the website, and personally I don't agree with most of them.
Thank you. Trevor?
Sorry. So in principle, totally in agreement with you, and I think probably a lot more made out of it than Edith Weston deserved to. They forget about the times when there was an RAF camp up there, and it was probably 3 times the population that it is now.
I did wonder, I was thinking what it used to be like before it was full. Okay, Godfrey and then Mark.
I mean, the St George's Barracks, I mean, this is just the Officers' Mess, and it's not a small-scale development. But St George's Barracks just raises alarm quite, not just in Edith Weston, because the original proposal, many people remember, but the local plan collapsed largely on the back of a massive proposal for St George's Barracks to be nigh on if not a village, almost a small town on there. And of course, this is nothing of the sort.
Okay, Mark.
To use words of a previous councillor, Dick Reeves, I think when this came up previously, he said it's not in our remit and we shouldn't make comment.
I think it seems
right.
Yeah.
So, Chair, apologies for being late. The reason I was late is because there was quite a lengthy debate in another organisation about this precise matter. And the area of concern isn't the final outcome, it's the fact that they're seeking to get outline planning permission in advance of the local plan having been published. Bearing in mind, our own neighbourhood plan will be up at the same time. So my understanding of the other parish is, I attended the design days, it's quite a good proposal in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the concern is that by agreeing an outline, you set a ball rolling in a particular direction before you know the total picture. Bear in mind the local plan's probably only a month or so away. So the parish, I know, is trying to persuade people to recommend that it be deferred or refused at this point in time until the local plan is published, so that they see what the total picture is, which should include our neighbourhood plan. So my concern is that in theory it's not a lot to do with us, but yes, it might be if people start adding up numbers. And I can't see anything wrong with the idea that the final decision be deferred until the local plan is published. So that may or may not benefit Edith Weston, but it might also help arguably us a little bit, depending on what actually ends up in the
So
local
basically
plan.
what you're saying is we need to wait and see.
The suggestion is that we should encourage the local authority to defer a decision on it until the local plan is published, so you see what the total impact is. That's the debate that I just left.
Presumably that's what
It's a matter for council, but that's what it's about.
And presumably that's what Edith Weston are pushing for.
We believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I think I think we're right to debate it because potentially impact across the county, which impacts us, which impacts our neighbourhood plan. In my mind, our difficulty is I can't see if we pass a resolution tonight saying we're for it or against it. We're not a statutory consultee for this. But I think what we could do is we seem to have, I believe, we've got a consensus that it would be sensible to somehow suggest that this ought to be tied into the local plan. We could pass a resolution addressed to our 3 ward councillors saying, please note our concerns of the wider picture and bring these to the attention of Rutland County Council, if you were so minded to do it.
It's a good strategy, yeah.
What do you think? Any other thoughts?
Well, shall I make that proposal?
Yeah.
Everyone's nodding. Go on then. So, did you get enough words from me there, Sharon? So that's my proposal.
I'll second.
Barry seconded. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 for. Those against? Abstentions? 2. Thank you. Here's a quick one. Just confirming the Laurent training dates that are going to be taking place for us all. Sharon, there's the 11th and the 25th of October, and they're going to be in here, downstairs, in here.
They will be up here, yes.
And so we've got we've got people coming to talk specifically about. Well, we will get a programme of what's actually going to be included in that before that event. So I hope that you'll go and pop that in your diaries. I know it'll mean a lot of Wednesdays in that month, but that's what we're going to do.
So it's evening, is it? So
Evening,
that's the time,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Same time as council, evenings, yes.
So
we just
no.
66.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No. What time is it?
It has to start at 6 o'clock because one of them is a 3-hour session. You will be given breaks.
You want refreshments in the middle of it?
Yeah. Yes, I want chocolate biscuits at that one.
Is it the same subject matter for both sessions, or is it two different?
It's
right.
different. One is basically code of conduct. I sent you this on the email.
Yeah, sorry.
Code of conduct, dispensations, interests, etc. The other one will be around roles and responsibilities of councillors, clerks, etc. So that we're all on the same wavelength.
Thank you.
Can I give my apologies for the 11th because I'll be away? I think I did.
I think you
Yeah,
did.
I was going to say.
No, I thought I had. But
Yeah, you did.
Likewise. I think I've done the same.
Yes, you have. Yeah. Thought I was on
To
groundhog
note,
day.
okay. To note correspondence, we've had a few letters. I think we've seen the round robin, haven't we, from the RALC? And have we had the monthly training bulletin from them? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
what
all
you've
the
had.
yes, and the monthly police newsletter.
Yes.
So, had all that.
You've had they're the correspondence items that I send out to you, and it was council's wish that I actually list them out so that you could see them every meeting. So.
Can I say, on the police newsletter, what I was interested was that with our new officer, the report has gone from being 1 page to about 3 or 4 sides because of the amount of things that she seems to be picking up, but also apparently there's a significant reduction in drug use on Todd's Piece since we've had a different policing approach to that area, which I think is very good news. It won't solve the problem forever, but it's been a significant reduction. That's good for everybody. Mike?
Just two things, well, three things. One, can I apologise for my coffee all evening? Can we note the service we're getting from the police, because it does seem to have increased incredibly.
Yeah.
And the third thing, if anyone knows anyone that witnessed an incident outside Bainder's on Saturday morning at about 10:30, can they get in touch with me? Because I had my wing mirrors, or Pat's car wing mirror smashed. Not by a car, by a guy parked outside Bainder's.
Yeah, I might have a photograph of that situation. I'll check. Yeah, I think
I've been reported to the police, and
we have got it on front and rear dash cam as well.
But I haven't got him hitting
Not
the
the
actual
I want to
actual-
see him actually doing it.
The sound of him doing it we've got, but not actually seeing it.
Trevor?
Just add something in terms of the police. We had a very refreshing meeting with Rebecca Angel from the Residents Association of the Elms. She's a breath of fresh air.
She's working very hard.
good public speaker too.
And she did ask me I thought if she did a bit of plain clothes work, it might help. So I just said, knock yourself out. Listen guys, thank you so much. We finished 10 minutes early, which is fantastic. I hope you have a good rest of the week.